Ladies and gentlemen, my heart speaks to you today, not as someone who has figured it all out, but as someone who has fallen many times and still chooses to rise. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 behaviors you should ever tolerate in your life. Not because the world will punish you if you do, but because you deserve better. Let me begin with the first one, self-betrayal. There is a silent pain that no one talks about, a heartbreak that doesn't come from someone else, but from within. It is called self-betrayal. And it happens every time you silence your voice, abandon your values, or pretend to be someone you're not just to be accepted, approved, or loved. I remember a time when I would constantly nod yes, when everything inside me screamed no. I wore a smile, not because I was happy, but because I was afraid of being misunderstood. I allowed myself to stay in places, around people, and in situations that dishonored who I was, because I thought, maybe this is what I deserve. I confused silence with strength. I mistook suffering for loyalty. And slowly, without even realizing it, I became the villain in my own story. You see, we are taught how to please others, how to adapt, how to keep the peace. But no one teaches us that there is a cost to this constant shape-shifting. Every time you betray your intuition, it hurts a little. Every time you laugh at a joke that wounds you, or tolerate behavior that dishonors your worth, or hide your pain just to seem strong, you lose a piece of your soul. And what's worse is that it becomes a habit. But let me ask you a powerful question. How can you expect the world to value you if you keep showing it that you don't value yourself? Self-betrayal is not just an emotional wound, it is a silent resignation. It is when you stop showing up for yourself and start waiting for others to do it for you. It is giving others the pen to write your story while you disappear into the background of your own life. And I say this with compassion, not judgment, because I've been there. I know what it feels like to betray your own heart in exchange for momentary peace. But let me tell you, peace that comes at the cost of your dignity is not peace. It's quiet suffering. So how do we change this? We begin by listening, really listening to that quiet voice inside. The one that says, you're tired. The one that says, this isn't okay. The one that says, you deserve better. That voice is not weakness. It is your wisdom. Honor it. Next, we must learn the power of the word no. Not all no's are negative. Some of them are sacred. Saying no to things that don't align with your truth is the highest form of self-respect. We must also redefine what it means to be strong. Strength is not pretending. It is not enduring things that crush you. True strength is looking in the mirror and saying, I will not abandon myself, no matter who walks away, no matter what it costs. And most importantly, forgive yourself for the times you did betray yourself. We all have. Not because we were weak, but because we were learning. Growth is messy. Healing is not linear. Be gentle with yourself. Let this be your reminder today. You are not here to live a life of quiet regret. You are not here to be invisible in your own story. You are not here to betray your voice just to be accepted by others who don't even see your worth. You are here to rise, to speak, to feel, to live with authenticity. So don't be the villain in your own story. Be the hero who decided to reclaim the pen and write a new chapter. The chapter where you finally choose you. Secondly, never tolerate disrespect, no matter who it comes from. We often think that pain only arrives with bruises, broken bones, or betrayal. But one of the most damaging experiences a person can endure is something far quieter, far more invisible: disrespect. And the most dangerous thing about disrespect is not how loud it is, it's how quietly it creeps in. Disrespect doesn't always come with shouting or aggression. Sometimes, it's as small as being talked over every time you speak. Sometimes, it's a sarcastic remark disguised as a joke. Sometimes, it's the silent treatment that makes you question your own worth. And sometimes, it's being treated like an afterthought, when you deserve to be someone's priority. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when I tolerated subtle disrespect, not because I didn't recognize it, but because I was taught that being kind meant being quiet, that letting it go was the mature thing to do, that keeping peace was more important than protecting my own dignity. And for a while, I believed that. I told myself, maybe they didn't mean it. I told myself, don't be too sensitive. I told myself, just stay silent, it will pass. But let me tell you something, honestly, it didn't pass. It piled up. Every moment of disrespect I tolerated taught others how to treat me, and more dangerously, it taught me to believe that I deserved it. But here is the truth. No one tells you. You teach the world how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. Disrespect is not just about what someone says to you. It's about the energy they bring into your space. It's the tone, the disregard, the lack of basic decency. And if you keep making excuses for it, it becomes your normal. You start lowering your standards just to keep certain people in your life. But at what cost? Respect is not something you should have to earn in a relationship, a workplace, or a friendship. It is the baseline, the foundation, the bare minimum. So let's break this myth once and for all. Being kind does not mean being passive. Being respectful does not mean being a doormat. And being forgiving does not mean tolerating repeated disrespect. You are allowed to walk away from any conversation, relationship, or environment that consistently diminishes your worth. You are allowed to draw boundaries, not as a form of punishment to others, but as protection for yourself. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They don't push people out, they show people how to come in correctly. And please remember, disrespect doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes, it comes from people we love the most, and that's what makes it even harder to walk away. But love without respect is not love, it's control, it's imbalance, it's pain wrapped in pretty words. If someone constantly disregards your feelings, your voice, or your value, no matter how much history you share, you have every right to stand up and say, this is not okay, your voice is not too loud, your standards are not too high, your need for respect is not too much. You are simply asking for the basic human dignity that every soul deserves. So I ask you today, gently but firmly, where in your life have you allowed disrespect to wear the mask of love? Where have you mistaken silence for peace? And most importantly, when will you finally say, enough? Because when you choose to no longer tolerate disrespect, you are not being harsh, you are being honest. And honesty, my friend, is the first step to healing. You deserve respect, not just from others, but from yourself. And that begins the moment you stop accepting anything less. Third, I want you to be alert to emotional manipulation. Love is meant to set you free, not suffocate you. It is meant to build you, not break you. Yet too often, people stay in relationships, romantic, familial, or even friendships, that feel more like prisons than places of peace. Why? Because emotional manipulation wears a very convincing disguise. It wears the mask of concern, the voice of affection, the face of someone you trust. But make no mistake, when someone uses guilt, fear, or silence to control your behavior, that is not love, that is emotional manipulation, and you should never tolerate it. I remember a time when I confused control for care, when someone would tell me, I'm only saying this because I love you, after making me feel small, when silence was used not to find peace, but to punish, when my feelings were dismissed as too sensitive, and my boundaries were labeled selfish, and yet I stayed. I tolerated. I convinced myself, they must care about me. Why else would they be so invested in my choices? But care does not crush you. Love does not feel like walking on eggshells. And attention is not affection when it comes wrapped in fear. Let me say this clearly. If someone makes you feel guilty for choosing yourself, that is not love. If someone withholds affection to manipulate your emotions, that is not love. If someone constantly makes you question your worth, your memory, or your reality. They are not empowering you. They are weakening you so they can stay in control. This kind of manipulation is subtle. It doesn't always come with shouting or slamming doors. Sometimes, it comes in phrases like, "I guess I just care more than you do. Fine, do what you want. Just don't expect me to be around when it falls apart. You've changed. You used to be different." They say these things to make you doubt yourself, to steer your decisions, to make you feel like love must be earned by obedience. But you are not here to be controlled. You are here to grow, to explore, to become. And love supports that journey. It doesn't limit it. One of the most powerful realizations I had was this: you can't save someone by sacrificing yourself. You can't keep the peace by staying in pieces. And you don't have to choose between being loved and being free, because the love that costs you your freedom is too expensive. So how do you recognize and rise from emotional manipulation? First, trust the discomfort. If something feels off, it probably is. Your intuition is not paranoid, it is protective. Second, set boundaries, and not just the easy ones. Set the boundaries that may disappoint others, but preserve your soul. A person who truly loves you will never punish you for having limits. Third, give yourself permission to walk away, even if there are years of history, even if they once held your hand when no one else did. You are allowed to outgrow a relationship that no longer aligns with your dignity. And finally, remind yourself, you are not difficult. You are not too much. You are not selfish for wanting respect, clarity, and emotional safety. You are simply waking up to the truth that love should feel like light, not a shadow you're constantly trying to escape. So I say to you today, with all my heart, don't tolerate emotional manipulation, no matter how it's wrapped, because the kind of love you deserve will never ask you to shrink, to suffer, or to surrender your soul. Real love will never feel like control. It will feel like coming home, to peace, to partnership, and most importantly, to yourself. The fourth behavior you must not tolerate is settling. There's a phrase many of us have whispered to ourselves during the darkest hours of our lives, a sentence drenched in quiet resignation and disguised as logic. It's better than nothing. We stay in toxic relationships because at least we're not alone. We accept jobs that drain our soul because at least we're getting paid. We tolerate friendships that belittle our dreams because at least someone's there. We accept crumbs because we think a crumb is better than an empty plate. But let me ask you something from the deepest part of your heart. Who told you that almost enough is all you're worthy of? Who told you that bare minimum is a gift? You weren't born to survive life. You were born to live it, to feel it, to celebrate it, not settle through it. I've met so many people who are exhausted, not from doing too much, but from doing so little that feeds their soul. They wake up with a weight in their chest, because deep down, they know they've compromised. And not just once, but over and over, until it became a lifestyle. Let me share a moment with you, one from my own journey. There was a time after my accident when I felt like I had no options. I believed the world had shrunk, and I should be grateful for whatever was handed to me. So I tolerated situations, people, and limits that didn't reflect who I truly was. I thought, at least I'm still alive. But merely being alive is not the same as feeling alive. One day, I asked myself a question that changed everything. If this wasn't my life, would I choose it? And the answer shook me. No, I wouldn't choose this version of me, who had settled, shrunk, and silenced herself, just to fit in the boxes life had handed her. That realization didn't come with anger. It came with freedom. Settling is not about lacking ambition. It's about lacking belief. We settle when we don't believe we deserve more. We settle when we fear that asking for more will make us look ungrateful. We settle when we think we'll be alone forever if we let go of what's in our hands. But here's the truth. Letting go of what's not meant for you opens space for what is. And that space may feel empty for a while. Yes. But it's a sacred emptiness. It's not loneliness. It's preparation. It's the quiet before the blessing. It's the silence where your real self begins to speak again. You deserve to be in rooms where your voice matters. You deserve relationships that don't ask you to shrink. You deserve to wake up excited, not dreading another day of pretending. So no, something is not always better than nothing, especially when that something breaks your spirit. I urge you today to raise your standards, not just for the world, but for yourself. Because what you tolerate today becomes your identity tomorrow. You are not too much. Your dreams are not unrealistic. Your standards are not too high. They are simply unfamiliar to people who are used to the bare minimum. Don't lower them to fit in. Rise up to meet them yourself. And remember, you were not made to settle in the shallows. You were made for deeper waters, greater dreams, and higher love. Dare to walk away from less. Dare to believe in more. Dare to choose yourself, fully, unapologetically, boldly, because you, my dear friend, are not here to settle. You are here to soar. And finally, never ever tolerate the death of your dreams. There's a kind of ache that lingers in the heart, not from loss, not from betrayal, but from unlived dreams. The dreams we shelved, the passions we buried, the stories we never told, because someone, somewhere, convinced us it was too late. Let me tell you something, I've come to believe with all my heart, dreams do not come with expiration dates, but society will try to convince you otherwise. It will say, you should have figured it out by now, you missed your chance, you're too old to start over. And slowly, quietly, we begin to shrink our dreams, until they fit inside the small box the world says we belong in. But here's the truth. Your dream was never meant to fit into anyone else's timeline. I remember meeting a woman who was in her 50s and had spent decades taking care of everyone but herself. She had once wanted to be an artist, but life got busy. Children, responsibilities, expectations. One day, she picked up a brush again, not to impress anyone, not to sell, not to achieve, but just to feel alive. That spark in her eyes. It wasn't about the painting. It was about reclaiming her right to dream. That's what your dream is. It's not about success or recognition. It's about returning to yourself. It's about reconnecting to the part of you that still believes, that still hopes, that still dares. So why do we neglect our dreams? Because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth is measured by how quickly we achieve, how much we earn, how young we are when we do it. But your journey is not a race. It is not meant to be compared. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're meant to be, right now, learning the lessons that will prepare you for what's next. And let me remind you, the world needs dreamers at every stage of life. Some of the most powerful stories were written after 40. Some of the most meaningful contributions came from people who refused to let the ticking clock define their purpose. Colonel Sanders started KFC at 65. Vera Wang entered fashion at 40. And you still have time, but only if you believe do. You see, neglecting your dream is not just postponing a goal. It's turning your back on the part of you that wants to live fully. And I know, it can feel selfish. Especially if you're a caregiver, a parent, someone constantly pouring into others. But let me ask you, how can you inspire your children to dream if you've stopped dreaming? How can you light someone else's fire when your own has gone out? Your dream doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It only has to be true to you. Maybe it's writing that book. Maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's starting a little bakery out of your kitchen. Whatever it is, if it stirs something in your heart, that's the dream calling you home. And yes, you will hear doubts, internal and external. You'll hear, what if I fail? But my dear friend, what if you fly? At the end of your life, you won't regret the things you tried. You'll regret the dreams you neglected, because someone else said it was too late. So today, I invite you to revisit that dream. Dust it off. Speak it out loud. Write it down. Take one small step, because your dream is still alive. It's just waiting for you to believe in it again. And you're not too late. You're just getting started.